So I have a Corhan aftermarket stereo for my F-150. It's a 2011 Ford F-150. I've had it for a couple of years, and when I first installed it, I couldn't get it to even power on. So I returned it, and then they sent me a replacement, and I couldn't get the replacement to power on. So then I realized there was something with the way I was hooking it up. So what I did is I started messing with it, and I ended up hardwiring the power, the red one, from my fuse box to my stereo. When I hardwire that, I realized that it worked. It runs, everything works. So I ended up hardwiring that. I used a fuse tab, just find it online, and I hardwire that to, to the stereo. So everything else, I wired normal speakers, everything normal. But I couldn't get illumination to work. I couldn't get the steering wheel controls to work. And I'll tell you about those two things in a minute. So first of all, I have no affiliation to this stereo. I just bought it on Amazon. There are other stereos, like I've heard of Pumpkin or some other a Toto or some other stereos out there that are Chinese stereos, that are Android stereos. This is an Android stereo, but I like this one because it has GPS, Google Maps, comes with the GPS antenna. It has Bluetooth. It has Wi-Fi. You can get all your apps. It has extra USB inputs, so like a wire with extra USB inputs. It has all kinds of features, and so I hooked up a subwoofer to this. I hooked up a reverse camera. All that stuff worked except for the illumination and the steering wheel controls, and I was okay with that for the longest time. I've been driving this for a couple of years now, but I wasn't happy. I wanted the steering wheel controls and the illumination controls to work. So what I realized is the illumination, I had to hardwire it to something that changed with automatic lights. So I ended up finding that in like the little screen that goes here, and the wire that comes from there. This one right here, it connects to the control of the blinkers, the flash blinkers, whatever, and this control right here. So I found the power here for the illumination of that, and I hooked up directly to my orange, which is my illumination wire. You have to have your indoor illumination settings all the way to max for it to work. I didn't realize that. It wasn't working for a while, and I didn't realize that. Once I set that all the way to max, and I'm talking about the illumination strength right there, like that one right there. So the one that's under the lights control. So set that to maximum, and then when your lights turn on, it turns the screen darker, and then when your lights are off, it turns the screen brighter if you're driving during the day. So if you have your lights in automatic. So that one works. Just get the power off of here and connect it to your orange. Now for the steering wheel controls, it was a nightmare. It took me forever. I couldn't find anything online. I looked everywhere. I looked in forums. I asked questions. I couldn't figure it out. I bought this thing on eBay. I don't think it ever worked. I think it's broken. I think they sold it to me defective, because one of those should be an LED light. It never flashed. It never turned on. So I don't know. I hooked it up the way it said. It never worked. I bought the original Axxess AXSWC-1. That didn't do anything. No matter what I tried to program it, I hooked it up the way the instructions said, couldn't get anything happen. So recently, I decided to buy the latest one. So I have the two interfaces here, the two old ones. So recently I decided to buy the latest one, the AXSWC. This is a 2011 F-150 XLT. It might not work for your car, but this is for that particular truck. For this particular truck, this is what I did. I bought the AXSWC. Comes in this box right here. So I bought it new because I figured if I buy it used, it might not work again. So I hooked this up. So basically by taking the key 1 and key 2 out of this thing, out of the stereo, comes with the key 1 and key 2. I think it's like brown and it's like I don't know. Well, key 1 and key 2. They're labeled key 1 and key 2. So those two is like brown and brown striped with white. Those come from the... Actually, when they come out of the stereo, they're orange and blue. But you hook them up, the orange to the solid brown and the blue to the stripe brown, because key 1 is usually positive, key 2 is usually negative. So that's how you hook them up. They come out to this 3.5 headphone jack thing. This thing should go to your AXSWC harness right here. You hook this up. Now out of this, you take, for this particular truck again, because it changes with the vehicle, but for this, because this is data driven, you need the two data wires here, which is the solid pink and the pink and blue, or the blue and pink. The other wires here are for older trucks that use the impedance controls or whatever. This is for data driven. So you take this two and hook them up. The problem is the instructions from Axxess say to connect this two to pin 15 and 16 of the car harness, or the truck harness. The problem is I don't have anything on pin 16, on pin 15, and I have a green and white on pin 16 here. That doesn't make any sense. Why am I gonna hook up two wires here to a blank empty one here? And then the other one, I don't even know what it is. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So I started looking and trying to figure out, trying to test all these wires and see what changed when I pressed the buttons here. Eventually what I did is I was like, maybe they're on this harness right here. This is from the factory radio. This was with the factory stereo. I kept this, and I'm glad I did. So you can probably buy these harnesses online as well. Just look for the Metro harness or whatever. I don't know. But just I kept this one, and I figure out, well, this one has a blue and pink here. So I hooked up my multimeter here to the blue and pink, assuming that the pink is the positive and the blue is the negative. And then I put it on like millivolts, and then I started messing with this, with the steering wheel controls, and I noticed these were changing as I pressed the keys. So I was like, oh, so there's something happening here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test this out. I hooked up my data wires from the interface to this blue and pink. Now I think about it, like it made sense. Take the blue with the blue and the pink with the pink. But that's not what Axxess says on their instructions. So that's why I wasn't doing it. And, you know, and I tried everything I could, and I could never get it to work. So I took this one, I hooked it up. This one is soldered, this one is not yet. But I hooked them up to the blue to the blue and the pink to the pink. And then the power for this to the power from the stereo, or the red from this to the red from the stereo, and the ground, the black, to the black from the stereo. Turn it on, start the stereo, and it worked. Then you go into your stereo settings and you program your steering wheel controls, and it works. So if you have this particular car, this particular truck, the F-150 2011 XLT, if your truck might be around those years, if it's CAN data driven, you've never been able to get the steering wheel controls working, I mean, you're not gonna find, like, you can keep looking online. I looked everywhere. This is the way that I hooked it up, and I hope it works for you. If you have any question, more detailed question as to how I hooked this up, leave it in the comments. You know, if you I mean, everything else here is useless. Now, I left this one's hooked up, this one that doesn't work, and this one that doesn't work because it was the original version or whatever. This might work, I don't know, but I could never get it to work. I left those hooked up because I've already soldered those wires. I've already, heat shrinked and everything. So I'm like, I'm not gonna undo all this stuff when I already have this one working. And there's plenty of room in there to put all three of them. So I'm just gonna solder this, but I've already tested this. The steering wheel controls work. Again, the illumination wire, the illumination triggers with the power, the automatic lights, just by getting power off of this that comes from the top right here, from that little screen that comes right there. Just find the one that changes. In this case, on my factory setup, it's an orange wire that no, it's not. It's a brown wire that is all the way to the right of this connector. I tap with my orange wire here, but it's that one. So that's heat shrink and solder too, and I even put tape in it. But this stereo now works the way it should. It has reverse camera, it has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, it has illumination that changes with the lights, the automatic lights. It has a subwoofer. The subwoofer works perfectly. It has extra USB adapters. It has now the steering wheel controls work. It has GPS and it works with Google Maps. It has Spotify. It has all the things that work with that truck. You can get all this stuff, working for a couple $100 instead of spending like a lot more money in fancy expensive stereos. So again, this is the Corhan CDJD AN03. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I know there are there's like Joying, Pumpkin, and a Toto or some other ones. It should be the same principle. Key 1 and Key 2. Key 1 should be, the CAN high, and the Key 2 should be CAN low. For data-driven stereos, you're gonna need the Axxess AXSWC. If you don't have a data-driven CAN system, then you have impedance system that you should probably hook it up to per the instructions in Axxess. But in this case, find this too. In this case, I'm gonna tell you, when you look at this harness, it's like these two wires right here. I don't know what pin numbers they are, but it's the two like at the bottom left of this. Those are the ones that bring the data from the steering wheel controls in here, and then through this to the stereo. So I hope this works. Again, if you have any question, let me know. I'm more than happy to help.